Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. As the group stages of the IPL 2024 season have concluded and we have our four playoff contenders. Varun, thanks for joining me today. I'm your host Ashwin. Varun's joining me from Singapore. We are actually recording this at the time of just before the start of the 70th and final group game because the toss has seen a rain delay. So there is potentially still some change in the points table order. But let me start by asking you how are you feeling? If somebody 6 weeks ago had said KKR, Hyderabad, Rajasthan, and RCB were the four qualifying teams, we wouldn't have believed that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's shocking because when we re-looked at our preview and what we selected, I think all of us just got one team right out of four.
And that was Rajasthan, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really weird season, right? I mean, no, it's not about us or anyone else. Anyone had to guess. I'm pretty sure everyone can get 2 out of 4, right? But this is the first time, I think, in the history that 2 consecutive years, 8 different teams have made it to the playoffs. And that speaks very poorly about Delhi and Punjab. But apart from Delhi and Punjab, all of the 8 teams have actually made it to the playoffs in the last 2 years. So quite something when you think about it. And then, of course, you got to love the IPL because we're on the last day of the league stage. We're at the last game of the league stage, and we still don't know the order of the top 4 teams. Just 24 hours ago, we found out the top 4. So I don't know how IPL does it, but it's like, I'm going to keep this in mind for the future, man. This last league game weekend, don't travel, don't do anything, because it's almost like it's quarterfinal time.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we will talk about the big game that happened, Kohli versus Dhoni, or I guess officially Faf versus Ruturaj, but RCB versus CSK, which was basically a knockout. Varun, the one thing you haven't mentioned that you and I, as much as we've been talking offline about this points table, etc., is also the fact that tied for 4th place are 4 teams at 14 points. RCB, CSK, Delhi, and Lucknow. I mean, that is another, it happens many years. Net run rate does come into play, but that is another wild stat because you think of every game where, you instead of losing by a margin of 80 runs, you lost by a margin of 50. Or even RCB versus Hyderabad was 287 and they managed to get within striking distance of the target. That's what made the difference, right? After 14 games per team, 70 total. The fact that it comes down to net run rate still somehow blows my mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone from team number 4 to team number 7 are just on the same number of points. And yet, it didn't feel like that because Delhi and Lucknow, I think, run rate was negative. And so to make up that gap, it was a lot. But it was just amazing that RCB's equation with CSK was just, win by 18 runs and your net run rate becomes better. So phenomenal. Like I said, all the way down to the wire, at the point of recording, Ashwin, unfortunately, we don't even know who's going to play the first playoff and the second playoff game, but that's what IPL is.
Yeah, we know that KKR has qualified in one of the first 2 spots, and we know actually KKR has qualified winning the table at this point, and we know that RCB is 4th, so will not make I always forget what they call the eliminator or the KKR will play the qualifier. And RCB will play the eliminator. Hyderabad has just won their game, so they've jumped into 2nd place. But Rajasthan, obviously, if they win their final group game of the season against KKR, will get to jump into 2nd place and face KKR yet again just a couple of days from now. So,
yeah, but if this game is rained out, the current KKR game, then I think SRH will stay.
And that is also on net run rate. Because SRH and Rajasthan will both be at 17 points, but Hyderabad has won by big. It's amazing. I mean, we tried to do a quick rundown of games that happened since we last recorded. But since we last recorded, Gujarat had 2 games rained out. And they were in completely different cities too, right? One in Ahmedabad, one in Hyderabad. And that unfortunately knocked them out of the tournament. Delhi won against Lucknow, but it was a little bit of a damp squib because unless Delhi won by an insane margin, almost mathematically impossible
600 runs or something.
I don't know the specifics, but at this point, I don't remember what was real, what was made up. But yeah, Delhi won. Rajasthan lost yet again. And I read a great stat, Varun, because RCB who have qualified with 6 wins on the trot. The last time our Rajasthan won a match, RCB was 10th on the table. Just think about that journey.
So I don't know if I think RR has lost four on the trot, right?
Four on the trot. Yep.
Fifth. But they had actually, before this, lost only one game.
Yeah.
So it's almost, I mean, RCB's done better than them, but I'm just saying it's almost like mirror image reverse kind of season for both these teams, where one was down and out and I think had 1% probability of qualifying.
Yes, some showed it as 0 because they were rounding down. Now, you and I both work in the corporate world. You always round up no matter what it is. But yeah, some said 0%.
And the other thing is, like, it's great. Kohli's like just got this thing about percentages, right? In that India Park T20 World Cup game, India's chance of winning was 3.6%. And he got that to 100. RCB's chance of winning, of qualifying, was sub 1%, and he got that to 100. So, phenomenal.
Truly incredible. Just incredible. Varun, if we have time, I will come back and talk about the rest. But what this week was really, really about, Saturday morning, Virat Kohli, you mentioned it already, Virat Kohli and Faf and the RCB team going for their 6th win on the trot. CSK not even needing to win, just needing to lose by less than 18 runs in order to qualify. And I mean, I don't know about you. It's been a while since I felt this level of emotion. I think on this podcast, it's pretty clear DJ is a very, very big MS Dhoni fan. I am a very, very big Kohli fan, and I think you like both guys. So let me start by asking you, like, was this a win-win kind of day because you were going to be happy regardless, or was it a lose-lose because you were going to be sad regardless of what happened?
I mean, I don't know. It was too weird because I had actually thought that if there is a way that Dhoni makes it to the final in Chennai, I'm going to see if I can get a ticket and try to fly down. And obviously the probability of that happening was probably sub 1%. But we just spoke about that, right? So I was actually in my mind ready and mentally ready to be able to fly down for that. So I had kind of was like, come on, we got to make this happen, Dhoni. But then, like, when I sat back and analyzed it, I kind of was like 51% of me wants Kohli to win and 49% of me wants Dhoni. So I was in a win-win situation. And I have not felt sad because I think, I read this somewhere that it's almost like somebody's fighting for their last trophy and somebody's fighting for their first trophy. So, I was like I was not sad about it. I think at the end of it, like, Kohli and RCB had the momentum. They did enough. I think their bowlers are standing up just enough at the right time. I wouldn't say that they are doing very well, but yeah, man, it was genuinely a win-win game for me.
I like the articulation of you cheering for somebody who's winning potentially their last trophy and versus their first IPL trophy. I mean, yeah, all things considered, you still have to say both MS Dhoni and CSK far over-delivered expectations this season, between injuries, between just where they were in the table early on in the season, and then, of course, RCB has over-delivered. But, I was joking with a friend of mine. I said, the most RCB thing to happen here would be for them to actually win their 6th game on the trot, but win it by like 16 or 17 runs and miss the playoffs as a result. That would have been just poetic of the kinds of seasons they've had. But it feels like a little bit of an injustice to walk through the game as it is, but I want to do it because I want to start by asking you about Virat being 47 off 29 and getting out. And DJ and I got to talk about this last week or a couple of weeks ago when he got out on 92 at one point. It is not the Virat we're used to that sees 47 off 28 balls and goes for a 6. Usually 47, he'd hit a measured shot, go for a boundary. I mean, phenomenal catch by Daryl Mitchell here. One of those almost fell over the boundary, tossed it back and kept it. But this is what his naysayers have been asking him to do in IPL cricket for a while, right? Stop playing the overly measured, stop going for the single, stop slowing down in the 40s and 90s. And he's now doing it, right? So are we upset that he didn't hit the milestone, or is exactly the role that RCB needed him to play?
No, I'm not upset he didn't hit the milestone. I think he has a lot of naysayers, almost every single person. And I think somewhere between not wanting to accept feedback and saying, I know how to do this best, there is some acknowledgement of what everyone is saying. And he's never going to publicly come out and say that, yes, I agree with everything that has been said. But, when you dig deep and you've lost these matches and then you say that, we got to turn it around for the fans. I think that's what Kohli said, that the RCB camp spoke about, that we're going to turn it around for the fans, not for ourselves, not to try and qualify. We just got to play respectable cricket. And I think somewhere between losing so badly in the first half of the tournament and all the criticism that happened, along with the fact that he's gotten selected for the T20 World Cup, which he always was going to, but he knows that he has to change his role. Somewhere something has clicked. And I am really happy because I don't remember the 47s or the 92s like that. I remember it as significant contribution at a solid strike rate when the team needed him. So I think he is changed slightly and just enough for it to be a positive.
I've gone through stats websites on year by year on IPLs, and you sort by batting, you sort by number of runs scored. You often see Virat at or near the top. He is this year. He's currently carrying the orange cap and nobody else seems close. You sort by number of boundaries hit, fours hit. He's often at the top, right? I think this year he is second to Travis Head with 59 fours versus 61. I have never recalled, that probably was here, I've never sorted by sixes hit and seen Virat Kohli at the top of the list. And this year he has 37 sixes from 14 innings. Yes, Abhishek and Sunil Narayan played a couple of fewer matches, but man, that is a change. That is a huge pivot.
So he's the highest six hitter right now?
Highest six hitter this year's IPL edition. Now, among teams that have qualified for the playoffs, Abhishek Sharma, Sunil Narayan, Travis Head, Riyan Parag, Rajat Patidar are all within 6 or 7 sixes of him. So that could change at the end of the season. But at the end of the playoffs, what a phenomenal statistic, right?
Yeah, that just shows you it's changed, man. And it's not like he started opening this year and that changed it. He's been opening for a while.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset change. And you got to reinvent, man. You just got to reinvent.
And I give him
and
full,
the best
full
players
credit.
can.
Absolutely. All right. RCB ended up getting to 218. Faf du Plessis, did you get a chance to watch that decision, the run out? Mitchell Santner, it was very confusing, right? I think it was Rajat on the other end, hits a straight drive. It happens a lot in this game, right? It happens a lot, right? Clips the fingers, goes on to hit the wicket, bats just out. But Santner didn't even seem to know that it had clipped his finger. He was sort of like, appeal? How's that? Can you check for me? I mean, if the ball hits your finger, don't you know?
I mean, maybe it like hit the side of his nail or something, and he wasn't sure if it was wind or the ball. But yeah, no, I'm just being silly. Of course, you would know. But then the umpire used the snickometer, right?
That was phenomenal. I mean, why not? You have the technology. Use the snick to see if it hit the finger. It was phenomenal. Great. Yeah, go ahead.
No, but I was just going to say, I think everyone just got going, man. Like, this is the perfect T20 innings. 47 of 29, 54 of 39, the openers. Rajat Patidar, again, the minute he turned around, RCB turned around. And trust me, this guy, when he bats well, he looks amazing. Like, I think Rapa has actually changed it. And if you get Rapa out early, I think you're short 30 runs. You're cutting RCB short 30 runs. And he's just hit 50s. He's hit sixes to the spinners. He's kept the momentum going. His strike rate is high. He is the Rajat Patidar that I think we saw 2 seasons ago, which RCB wanted to kind of invest in. And Green has come good. Maxwell, if you noticed, didn't move his feet. I think somebody must have told him this is the Afghanistan game of the 2023 World Cup. He was just standing still and just swinging it. And he actually got 16 or 4 or 5 balls. But everyone played their part, man.
Yeah, and really exactly what you want. I mean, Thikshana and Santner bowled well as kind of you look at CSK's bowling lineup at the Chinnaswamy, you see spin, and the track was unbelievable. The amount of spin was unbelievable. I mean, when we started the innings at 200 plus are needed and you need to win by 18. And then when they came back on after the rain delay, you're saying, oh, this might be a 160 wicket. So actually kind of amazing for them to get to 218. And other than Thikshana and Santner, everybody went for runs. And then you're sitting here saying, okay, the equation becomes the most crystal clear, right, Varun? You're thinking, okay, do I want to win? I want to get the points. If CSK had got the points, they would have gone to 16, etc. But ultimately, it was none of that mattered. Right? This is their last playoff game. All that really mattered was, can you cross 201? And the math, because of decimal places, there was no scenario in which a tie would have changed anything, because if they got all out for 200 or finished the 20 overs for 200, RCB's through. And if they made 201, CSK are through. Varun, why don't we take a very quick break? We will come back and talk about the chase and how it unfolded and then where the IPL season goes from here. So don't go anywhere. We'll take a quick break and be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. If you are just joining us and if you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you're on a podcast platform, hit that like or 5-star button or give us a good review. We always love to hear from you. Varun, chase started. Let me first ask you, Faf du Plessis or Virat. It's not super clear because in the team talks, in the huddle before they went back out, Virat was doing almost all the talking. Maxwell got the ball. How do you feel about that? If you're RCB, you're saying, but I'm competing against Jadeja, Santner, and Theekshana with Karan Sharma, Glenn Maxwell, and then Swapnil Singh and maybe Lomror. Like you don't quite on paper have the spin attack to compete against CSK. And you threw the first ball to Glenn Maxwell, and what happened to the first ball of the match? I mean, perfect start, right?
Yeah, I mean, RCB's also always had a bad bowling lineup, so I think they just have to deal with it. So they're not going to look at matchups. But I mean, I would totally bowl with Maxwell, right? It's a big game. You get hit for 2-3 sixes. Okay, fine, doesn't matter. You've got 200 plus on the board. You can recover. But in an off chance where you get a big wicket like Rutu or Rachin, that is game changing. And what happened on the first ball of the match was everyone was in shock because he bowled this slightly short, non-spinning slow delivery and Ruturaj just kind of played it back and straight into the fielder's hand. And Maxwell was in shock. Everyone was in shock. It was too early for Virat to have that kind of energy. Like he was like, wait, what just happened? And
is there like a switch he knows how to flick and it's like just comes on?
At least a couple of balls, right? Just to get the game going. But yeah, Ruturaj looked in shock. CSK looked in shock. I think it was just a terrible thing. Now, I read an interesting stat that I think says Ruturaj, while chasing 175 plus in the IPL, averages like 10 or something, man. So then when you start thinking back at it, a lot of his big scores are probably batting first or when you're chasing less. So, yeah, nobody's thinking of stats when you're playing, but you got to put in that little bit extra effort when you know they've set you up with a spinner. Just when you know you're the key batsman, I feel like that was the game there because it was just too early to lose it.
Yeah. And I mean, Daryl Mitchell came in and got out not very long after, right? So 19 runs on the board, you've lost your second wicket. And still enough of us have watched enough IPL cricket at the Chinnaswamy that anything is possible. And actually, Rachin Ravindra, who'd had a tough season thus far, some credit to CSK management and to Ruturaj / MS, whoever's actually running the show, for backing him this much, right? Because he ended up coming really good. Rahane looked decent. Very, very strange knock from Shivam Dube, right? Shivam Dube walks out at 85 for 3. And he just, I don't want to imply that this is why, but he just hasn't been the same since the World Cup squad got announced, right? And again, I'm certainly not implying that he took his foot off the gas since he made the cut, but actually now as we pivot to Delhi being out and us being focused on Team India, that's not a great sign, right?
Yeah, it's a bit sad actually. Since that announcement came out, I don't think he's done anything. And again, the deeper you try to look at it, when you think of last year's final, you can almost visualize the same Shivam Dube as you saw yesterday, which was struggling to get the boundary. And, Mohit Sharma bowling Yorkers, him not being able to do anything, just digging it out for a single. And I think that's where you just kind of, as a person who plays in such high-pressure situations, I think you got to look for doubles, triples, like run hard, do everything you can till that first boundary comes. Because otherwise, playing an innings of 7 or 15, you could almost say that lost them the game, right? And I'm a big Shivam Dube fan. Yeah. But 7 of 15 with no boundaries, uncharacteristic, and I think that cost them the game.
So Jadeja walks out at 6, plays a blinder, and we'll talk about the last couple of overs again. And then the 5th wicket falls. And were you expecting, for all the memes and jokes, etc., at number 7, when the 5th wicket falls at 13.4, when Dube actually gets out, do you expect Thala to walk in?
So I don't. And I don't, because they've already made it clear that his knee cannot handle it.
Yeah.
So I think like I can see a cheeky smile on your face, but I think...
I mean, you guys keep sending me stuff about 7, the number 7. And why wouldn't you walk out at 7 on
everything
the last
is
day?
about 7. In fact, it was played on May 18th, and 8 minus 1 is 7.
And Virat's number is 18.
Which is also 8 minus 1 is 7.
Okay.
So all roads...
But 1 minus 8 is minus 7, which is negative, Thala.
Still 7.
Okay,
but
great.
My point is, it's clear he can't do it. His body can't take it. Now, you can say he shouldn't be playing. Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of debates going on, but he's not done badly. He's also kept for 20 overs. I don't think he's let his team down with the keeping, but I think maybe the batting impact on his knees or body has a different impact. That's just it, right? So I knew he's not going to walk out, but at the same time, that catch that Faf took off Santner was like A.B. de Villiers vibes on the boundary, where he took this stunner. I mean, that catch that's a wicket out of nowhere. Like, for Siraj, who was looking average, that was a wicket out of nowhere. And that's when you are forced. I can't remember which over that happened. But
it was the last ball of the 15th. So 15 overs. At that point, yeah.
So 5 overs to go. That's the point he walks in. And at one stage, I think you had Jadeja, Dhoni, and Lockie Ferguson all in the action, and couldn't help but think this is the 2019 final again, semi-final, because New Zealand versus India. And I just had too many 2019 vibes.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it briefly, but that catch, I mean, the guy's 39 years old. And you saw both in that split second. I've watched that catch so many times at this point. In that split second, he stopped and he paused and just like put his arms up to celebrate, which means he knew what he had just pulled off. And then they panned to Kohli's face and his jaw just like eyes go big. The jaw drops like, oh my gosh, what has just happened?
And he looked exact same way when AB did it like 6 years ago.
Which is phenomenal. I mean, how could you not? I mean, I'm not going to get into the Kohli debate, but how could you not love a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve? He's not the skipper, and he had nothing directly to do with that wicket. It was Siraj and Faf, but man, phenomenal. All right, so Dhoni and Jadeja are batting. 2019 vibes. All like, it's again seemed a little bit bizarre overall, just how many parallels were there. But it came down to 63 needed in 24 balls to qualify. I'm not even talking about winning, because at this point, they've probably put that out of their minds, right? 63 or 24. Yash Dayal, remember, 5 sixes in the last over against KKR, which basically for many people who hadn't been watching for a while put Rinku Singh on the map. I mean, you expect Andre Russell to do it, but Rinku Singh 5 sixes, and Yash Dayal comes into ball 16.1 with 2 overs left and 4 overs to go in the team. If you're Faf at that point, are you trying to preserve overs differently? Do you think about Cam Green? You know, he used Siraj's over in the 18th. What's going through your head at that point, Varun? Are you just saying try to keep as many as humanly possible for the 19th or 20th?
Yeah, I think so, because Glenn Maxwell and Cam Green are not premier bowlers for their own teams, respectively, like for their country. Yash Dayal, Swapnil Singh, Karan Sharma.
And you're likely not giving it to Swapnil or Karan just because they're spin, right? Like, so, yeah.
I mean, I think these guys are like, Swapnil Singh is so random. I feel like Faf may not remember who he is half the time.
It threw me back to 2009-8 when the first IPL, Rajasthan Royals had a player called Swapnil Lesnodkar. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I think he opened the batting or something.
Yeah, what a throwback. It was great. Anyway.
Yeah, so I think the point is just that you know you're going to bowl out Siraj. Lockie, in fact, didn't finish at the end of it. He bowled only 3. But I think Yash Dayal has been training for this, right? So you give... You back the guy. Look, don't get me wrong. They don't have anyone else.
Yeah.
So from whoever they have, if one guy in particular has been training to bowl the slower ones, the death overs, then you give the ball to him. There's nothing else you can do. Yeah.
So 13 runs off the 17th over, right? The equation, I got to do really quick math as I try to remember. Give him 50 from 3 overs needed to win. And you're thinking, okay, 17 runs on over. Siraj gets the ball. Goes for 6, 2.4. Gives a single, a wide, 15 runs gone. You can say he was trying to defend 17. He went par for the course, right? Lockie Ferguson and Yash Dayal have to bowl the last 2 because Siraj is now bowled out. And Lockie gets it first. bowls a beamer to Dhoni. I mean, it slips out of the hand or whatever it is. At that point, we were saying, is this his second beamer over waist height direct? Is he going to come off?
Saying that.
So I guess what it came down to, from what I could tell, is it didn't seem like it was at risk to the batter because it was far enough away from his body. Like, it slipped and it was wide, but it wasn't enough for them to get taken off. Then Jadeja hits a boundary, Dhoni hits a boundary, and then 23 needed off 7. And you're thinking you need at least 4 here to get it sub 20 to give yourself a shot. And Jadeja hits a mammoth 6.
And he kind of bent down the same way as he did to get that, I don't know what, but that momentum when he did that to Mohit Sharma last year. It was exactly the same.
So 17 now needed. Yash Dayal, who's given, I guess, 30 at the 20th over before, gets the ball. And Varun, that first ball. I mean, I wasn't talking to you. We weren't in the same room, but we were on WhatsApp, living through it live. I could almost hear your emotion in your messages.
I mean, it was 110 meters 6 that went outside the Chinnaswamy Stadium.
Yeah.
In the last over by Dhoni. Like, I mean, it cannot get better than that. Like, at that point, I was like, this is game over.
Yeah.
This is it. It's finished. Jaddu and Thala, between them, just know how to do this. Because at that point, the equation comes down to 11 of 5.
Yeah.
With Jaddu and Dhoni both there.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is it, game over.
But what changed is 110 meters, ball went outside the stadium. Again, this is just conjecture.
No, it's not. I was going to tell you.
No.
Since when you went to sleep last night, you messaged me this.
Yeah.
And between now and when you woke up, Dinesh Karthik is the guy who actually said this in the dressing room.
Oh, okay. So it's real.
So he said it, and I think it's still complete bullshit. But he said, and I don't know if you're saying it in jest, but in the team meeting after the game, he said the best thing that happened to us was that Dhoni hit the ball outside the stadium. Because then what it meant was that you got a new ball, which was easier to grip and easier to bowl the slower ones and things. And so he said that was the best thing. And then he also looks at Yash and said, oh, and well bowled also, Yash. So he kind of just gave full credit to Dhoni for hitting it outside the stadium. And he thinks that is what won them the game. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, Yash gets to walk in run in with a dry ball and gets Dhoni out the next ball. I mean, at this point, hundreds of millions of Dhoni fans are watching this saying, this is it. Time for a special. He's going to finish it off in style. I mean, he was batting at 25 off 12 balls at that point, over 200. And he's like, this is it. He's going to get to finish it off in style. The semi and the final are both in Chennai, like you said earlier.
It was just written.
The dream was written.
And we all discussed this, right? That it's going to be 195 in the 19.5 overs. Dhoni's going to hit a 6. They're going to lose the match, qualify. And that's where it was heading.
Yeah. And yet, Yash Dayal managed to get Dhoni out the next ball. I mean, it still went up in the air, slower ball. And that was the beauty of it. It's hard. It's incredibly hard to bowl a slower ball under any circumstances, let alone with a wet ball. But with the drier one, what he's known for is that back of the hand slower ball. And he delivered it, got Dhoni out. Shardul walks in.
And just another thing, that's where between last year and this year, the rule changed, right? Where Jaddu would have been on strike with 4 balls to go.
Yeah, the crossing. You're right. They would have crossed.
That, to me, is a game-changing rule, which I think is fantastic. But if Jaddu was on strike with 4 balls to go and 11 runs, even a boundary and a couple of twos was enough.
Yeah, Jaddu was on 42 of 20. I mean, it was easy. Easy picks.
That's what I'm saying. That rule change actually cost Chennai the game.
Wait, why? I thought you guys said the guys who walked in next is one of India's best all-rounders. He should be able to finish games, right?
He should, but unfortunately, I don't know if he's been around for like the whole IPL. He's been in and out, and I feel like he's like a 3-ball specialist, so he has to have figured this out. He should have transformed himself into a Tewatia.
So, yeah, I mean, 11 needed off 4 as Shardul walks out. Very difficult for number 8 to walk out in that scenario. Misses the ball. Again, a little bit of a shock that they didn't run, because for me, you want Jadeja on strike. Even if there's risk of the keeper running you out, you want to give it your best shot. But they didn't try to run after he missed it. Then they get a single, and you're thinking, Varun, at this point, 2 balls to go, 10 runs needed. Jadeja on strike in yellow. And you're thinking, we've seen this. We've been here. Like, he did exactly this equation, different match, but for 10 needed off
12 months ago.
Exactly
12
this.
months.
And he did it. And in this scenario, obviously, Yash bowled a nice slower ball outside the off stump. Jadeja missed it. And the celebration started. He had to bowl one more, but they were like, just bowl a legal delivery. Doesn't matter where it goes. And that was the game. And you saw Dhoni sitting in the dressing room with his head sort of dropped, but Dhoni doesn't show a lot of emotion. And then you panned over, and Virat had his arm over his eyes, and there were tears after all the running and celebrating and hugging. I mean, it was just, even as I had not intended for this episode to be RCB versus CSK relived. It was supposed to be a full week of
best
IPL.
Game of the IPL. We had to have an episode for it.
I mean, they cut to Anushka, who's fist dropping. They cut to Virat, who's got tears in eyes. I mean, 6 on the trot after having 0 point something single-digit decimal % chance of qualifying, and RCB are through to the playoffs. What a moment! And just that sport for you, right? Like, it's good as one half of this group is celebrating, half are absolutely shattered because everybody had that fairy tale ending for Dhoni written, and it just didn't happen in Chennai.
It's just sad, man. It was sad for Dhoni. It was great for Virat, and there's no other way to describe it.
I guess the only question for me here is Dhoni hasn't officially announced anything. So why we are the ones saying farewell tour and this was it? He hasn't said anything.
Yeah, and he's not going to say anything. He's going to put a tweet 10 months from today, just before
from 1929 hours, consider me retired.
Pretty much. That's what he's going to do. He's not going to announce it.
You really think so? I mean, I guess if he wanted to go out with a bang, he would have done it after last year's trophy and just called it.
Yeah, so I don't think he wants to go out with a bang. I think they asked everyone to stay back in the last Chennai game, and he took a tennis racket and was throwing things into the stands. And I mean, that's pretty symbolic enough for me. And yeah, I think, we're joking about this tweet and all. I think it will come out sooner than we expect, but it will come out because the mega auction is going to happen. You are going to want to bring in players who are going to stay with you for 3 years. And Dhoni's got to be there rebuilding CSK from the outside, not the inside. That's just the way it's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to unpack. We didn't get to talk through the rest of the games. Abhishek Sharma had some great heroics to give Hyderabad their best possible shot at qualifying in top 2. As it stands at the time we're about to wrap up this week's episode, the Rajasthan versus KKR game looks like it's at high risk of rain. I mean, it's raining right now. I don't know if it's going to get rained out, but if it does get rained out, to your point, Varun, the first qualifier, I keep forgetting what they're officially called. I guess it's called the qualifier, becomes KKR versus Hyderabad, top 2 teams. And then the second one, the eliminator, becomes Rajasthan versus RCB. What are your predictions from this point on? We've been so wrong at this point so far, so we might as well make some more.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give a prediction. I'm predicting a KKR versus RCB final.
Okay.
All right. And I'm predicting that, Harshit Rana gets up into Kohli's face, Gautam Gambhir gets involved, Kohli tells everyone to, buzz off, and RCB wins the cup.
And the next day, Gambhir is announced as India coach.
That's it. That's the drama that I'm telling you. That is what my prediction is.
Yeah, I think it's a solid one, man. I'm not going to disagree with that. I could visualize it go a few different ways. I think Rajasthan's going to come back swinging. I think Hyderabad's going to want to show what a dominant season they've had with the bat and kind of cement it. But KKR versus RCB at Chepauk would be a pretty fitting way to finish off what's been a good season.
And let's be honest, all jokes aside, I think KKR has got a good shot because I think between Narayan and Chakravarti, they, playing at Chepauk, I think their bowling is a great fit for that stadium. And so I think they are going to have a slight edge. But yeah, man, you gotta hope for KKR versus RCB and Kohli winning it.
Yeah. Varun, that's been a great discussion. Like I said, apologies to our listeners who are hoping to get a deep dive into Delhi, Lucknow or something, but this was the match that made it all happen. So this was our goal as we wrap up this week's episode. Congratulations to every RCB fan out there. Commiserations with CSK fans. I mean, as Delhi fans, we get it. And actually, we ended the season as Delhi fans too, tied for 4th in terms of points, which is not that bad. Varun, I don't really want to talk about fantasy, but I almost skipped it last time, and when DJ gave me some grief for it, so I'll just run through really quickly our Edges and Sledges fan league. In first place is Ons 108, still been top 3 for a while. Second place is Uncle Sam, and third is Bishnoi Boy. So if I'm not mistaken, all three have been kind of in the top for a while, but it's getting pretty close up there, and there's lots of boosters, etc. to use. Varun, you're in 17th. You've been dropping a little bit in our Edges and Sledges league. DJ's in 19th. So he's right at your tail. And I'm languishing kind of way down there in 40th, right? With people who stopped making their transfers a while ago. That's where I'm at, even though I've used and made all my transfers. So congratulations to our top 3. We'll be tracking as we end up the season. Varun, what are you going to do with your life Monday, tomorrow, or at the time of recording this, when there's no IPL for the first time in 8 weeks?
I'm going to feel a huge void. I'm going to have to watch Netflix or something, which I haven't done in a long time. And then I'm going to just sleep early.
Yeah, you have the crazy... You were up till 3 in the morning and watching the RCB CSK.
It was great. So I'm going to sleep, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, we got matches coming up Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Saturday is a nice little breather, and then Sunday is the final. The IPL is almost wrapped, and then we'll be back next Sunday to talk about probably the final, and then immediately pivoting to T20 World Cup. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are at One Tip, One Hand, the number one tip, number one hand on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the social medias. We are onetip1hand@gmail.com if you want to email us any questions. Otherwise, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment. Tell us what your favorite part of the RCB CSK game was, and who you're predicting to win the finals of the IPL. Do you think it'll be RCB KKR like Varun does? Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. We will see you next week.